I will call the meeting of the Township of Northampton Planning Commission for Tuesday, August 10th, 2021. Start with a Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silence for our troops. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'd like to call for an approval of the minutes for May 11th. Does anybody have any comments or questions about the minutes? I'll then entertain a motion to approve them.
Motion. A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Minutes approved. This evening we have two items of consideration that are being presented. The first is the preliminary and final plan of land development for the Sabalaske Land Development SLD 20-3, 83 Buck Road. Who is presenting that this evening?
These on now? Okay.
Yeah. Please introduce yourself.
My name is Alex Schneider. I'm the attorney representing Sabalaske Real Estate. We're here today looking for review, recommendation, and approval of applicant's preliminary and final land development, along with grant of waivers for the property located at 83 Buck Road, of which the applicant is the title owner as well. Applicant is proposing a 1,252 square foot addition to the back of the existing building, which currently sits on just over an acre and has a current building footprint of 2,892 square feet. To orient you guys, the existing building is the old PNC Bank at the gateway into Holland, coming from Feasterville. Okay. The property is currently zoned C2 with general commercial office with a village overlay. Proposed use is a medical office, specifically a general family practice, which is moving up from Feasterville. Our proposed use is permitted by right in C2, and any use permitted by right in C2 is also permitted in the village overlay. For further site design details, I'll now turn it over to the applicant's engineer, June Pak.
Good evening. My name is June Pak. I'm with Trans-Pacific Engineering Corporation. I'll cover the specifics of the project. It's really not much to describe. It's like Alex mentioned, it's an existing PNC bank with 29 parking spaces. Dr. Sabalaske wants to put an addition to the back. The existing parking lot currently has no pavement markings or directional signs, so it functions as a two-way aisle. However, due to reviews from the traffic engineer, we did make the traffic circulation one-way. As you can see on the plans, there's one way in and one way out, along with one-way drive aisles throughout the site. Besides that, there are no other improvements to the site. We're maintaining the existing lighting. We are putting a landscaping buffer along Buck Road, between Buck Road and the parking lot. There is a little bit of I believe 40 square feet of additional impervious, just to maintain a drive aisle width behind the proposed addition. Besides that, there really isn't anything else. So if I can, we can go over the individual review comments. There is a waiver letter that was submitted to the township. We would like to amend that with 2 additional waivers, and we can go over that right now.
Which one are you referring to, sir?
Sorry?
Which waiver are you referring to?
The waiver letter, or?
Which waiver additional?
Which,
Oh, the
which
waiver-
particular
right,
waiver?
That's what I'm covering. right now.
Okay, okay.
So in the Gilmore Associates letter, we will comply with everything. Number 7, under the Subdivision Land Development Ordinance Review, it mentions, it states that the 90-degree parking cannot support a one-way traffic. It has to be two-way traffic. And the other part was 24 feet for two-way traffic. The existing site does, it's a little deficient on that. So I believe it ranges from like 22, 23. So we would request a waiver of that requirement. The reason not to comply with that is if he had to make it angled parking for one-way traffic, he would lose potentially enough parking spaces to prevent him from putting his addition on.
So which one, you're going over waivers and you said number 7. Number 7 in reference to which letter?
The Gilmore.
Gilmore letter?
Yes.
So if I go to the Gilmore letter, number 7 under waivers.
Number 7 under the Subdivision Land Development Ordinance
Page
Review.
3 of the sound. Yeah.
All right, my bad.
So you'd be requesting a waiver from section 22-403, point B, point 8, point B, 3B is
Correct.
what that section would be.
Okay, under the McMahon letter, again, we will comply with everything. The McMahon letter reiterates the same comment from the Gilmore letter. Additionally, they do have a requirement, or they're citing the requirement of a 5-foot curb radii. The existing site does not have 5 feet radii. They range from 2.5 to 4, I believe. Again, in order to comply with that, for example, the island coming from that first driveway in the middle of the site, it's only about a 7-foot wide width. In order to make that a 5-foot radius, it would have to be extended to 10 feet. So he would lose additional parking spaces. So that's the other waiver we would be requesting.
How much congestion do you predict? Like how many patients do you see per hour that you have a high turnover? Do you have an idea?
So yeah, so currently, hi everybody, I'm Sabalaske. Thank you.
Yeah, here you go. I'll carry it over.
Just to repeat the question, just out of curiosity, because there's a strict one-way now around there, do you have like high congestion? How many patients do you see in an hour, or whatever the case may be?
Sure. Hi everybody, I'm Tom Sabalaske. We see only up to 4 patients an hour. We're a good old family practice that takes our time with our people, and we have 2 people working an hour. So 2 physicians or my nurse practitioner. So we're only going to see up to 8 patients an hour
Okay.
at max.
So really, I mean, you're projecting you probably won't even fill the parking lot up normally during the day.
No, absolutely not.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
be far less traffic than the previous bank use.
Mr. Peck, just to comment regarding the drive aisle waiver, we would have no objection, I would think, from an engineering perspective to the width of the drive aisles, again, in light of the nature of the business. I think what we would prefer is that there was still a one-way maintained to the rear of the addition, because that width is much more narrow than the rest of the drive aisles. So if that could still remain one way.
Right. Yeah, that's definitely a one-way.
Yeah.
So you would be okay with having two-way traffic throughout the site, except for the rear?
Correct, yeah, with the configuration of the parking stalls and the fact that most of it is existing today as it is now, I think, we would have no objection to, a waiver for
Does that include the driveway?
It could, yes.
Okay, great.
I think I had the same question. With the extension back out, covering what's part of the drive-through now, there'll still be a way to get behind there with a car? Is there enough room to have? Is that your question?
Sorry?
So I think what you're asking is where the addition is going in the back in lieu of the drive-through now, if there's still going to be access to drive.
To drive that way to get out, yeah.
There will be.
There will be?
So the rear is, patients really should not be using the rear.
Yeah.
It's mainly for loading.
Okay.
So we could even put a sign saying loading
Yeah.
vehicles only.
Yeah. No, I'm just trying to think, because I've used it before for the drive-through, and I'm thinking going the drive-through, there's no more room behind there, and I'm looking at the schematic here, how far back you're going to build out if it came all the way to the back.
Right, that's why we're extending the we're widening that area.
Yeah. Well, as long
Putting
as
an extra 40 square feet of
maybe some
asphalt.
signage there to let cars know that they, anybody that has used the back of it before to go back through there, let them know that they can't.
There'd really be no reason for anybody to use that
Right,
drive-through.
right,
Yeah.
there really
Used to
really
it.
is no
Right.
reason,
Yeah.
right.
And you will have the location behind the building hatched for a loading area, it looks like on the plan.
Right.
So it seems to be a little bit of self-regulation also.
Okay, last but not least, the Pannoni letter. There really isn't anything here you cannot comply with. Just had a question about number 10 and 11 under the zoning ordinance, under the zoning ordinance section.
So this lays within the village overlay district that was developed, right? So this is just a question to the board, is that they're satisfied that the spirit or the intent of the development is in spirit of which the village master plan, which is a guide. And I think there are going to be a discussion about one issue with the village master plan in relationship to sidewalks. I won't bring that up, but I think that's going to be a topic of discussion. So that was just an indicator to everybody that, hey, this is within the village overlay. Is everybody okay with it? So it's more of a report back to the board, just for them to be aware of it.
Okay.
Same with both 10 and 11 or both that. So it's just an indicator saying, hey, just a reminder that this is within the village overlay. Make sure it meets the spirit of which the village overlay was written. So with this being in it, so.
Yeah, I didn't know if that was directed at us to make sure that it complies.
Right, yeah. So there has been discussion, and I guess I'll just bring it up since I just brought it up about the sidewalks. So there is a guideline for sidewalks within the village overlay. There's been no sidewalk proposed, so we're just letting it out there and just explain the the reasoning behind no proposed sidewalk, and then we'll let the board respond.
Craig, just
Yeah.
to broaden that question a little bit more, the Bucks County Planning Commission had a number of recommendations. And do you have any comments on their recommendations that they made? Sidewalks being one of them, but they had others. Any comments on those?
Well, a lot of them just reiterate what all your consultant reviewers already made. But in general, for the sidewalk, I mean, where does it connect to?
Yeah, I guess the concern that we were thinking is, this property abuts that underpass where the railroad is. I mean, where would that sidewalk go? I guess the concern would be that it would actually create a potential risk if somebody starts walking that way and thinks that they can get through to the other side of that, and it's a narrow underpass as well. And the concern would be that they would try to walk through that way. I think it would be a bigger risk than anything else.
Okay, so there's some parties that don't disagree with what you've just stated. However, the spirit of the overlay is a walkable community within this area to, promote sustainable walking and some other things. So in lieu of the sidewalk, do you have anything else proposed, such as paying maybe a fee in lieu of? So it can be put into a sidewalk fund that can improve. We don't necessarily probably want the sidewalk going into that bridge abutment, but however, it is part of the village that we do want to make sustainable and walkable. So by doing your part, do you have any objections to a fee maybe in lieu of the sidewalk?
I do not, depending on the size of the fee.
Right, okay. I don't know where you guys want to take it from there, but that's what I would recommend, that we come to some understanding of a fee in lieu of, than to meet within the spirit of what we're trying to do within the community.
Thank you for your response. To kind of extend what has just been shared with us, another thing that was part of the Holland Master Plan was a welcoming sign to the community, just as you expressed, once you come out of the tunnel from the Feasterville area, you're in Holland. There's no signage to indicate that. As part of the original 2014 Holland Master Plan, right on the front of the brochure that was generated, there's a sign right on what will potentially or eventually be your property. Would you be amenable to also incorporating a sign welcoming people to the Holland area on your property?
I have not a chance to discuss
Yeah,
that with
right.
my attorney and things.
I guess it would depend on the size of the sign, the aesthetic of the sign, and the cost of the sign, obviously. But it's something we could discuss.
Is this something I would pay for or the township would pay for?
I guess the direction I'm going in is perhaps you might participate in it.
And would that participation be in lieu of the sidewalk fee, or would that be in addition to the sidewalk fee?
In addition.
Okay. And I just do want to say, I'm a family doctor. I'm purchasing this property by myself to try to make a really nice family practice.
Can you just speak into the microphone?
Could you speak into the mic?
I apologize. I just want to say I'm purchasing this facility by myself to make my family practice. I have sunk all of my savings into this property, and I'm definitely willing to work with the board, whatever you feel is required. However, I do not have unlimited funds, and until this all gets approved, I can't even get my second loan to do the upgrades, to do any of these things. So whatever is mandatory, I'm willing to do, but I don't have unlimited funds for this project, unfortunately. Thank you.
Thank you. We don't want it to be an onerous situation for you. We want to approach this from a spirit of cooperation. So I appreciate your willingness to discuss it.
Thank you.
The other thing I would like to address are some landscaping issues, and in particular on, I'll address sheet C7. There's a couple of things that I'd like to point out. Number one is on the quantity list, it shows that there are 8 inkberry proposed, but the actual drawing indicates 12. So that needs to be coordinated and changed so that it should indicate 12 on the quantity list. Small item, but it should be done.
Okay.
Another thing that I have an issue with, the plant species, in particular, it's indicated 24 of a Danica arborvitae. They are not deer resistant. Anyone who's familiar with Northampton Township knows that we are a magnet for deer. And unfortunately, arborvitaes, most of their varieties are magnets for deer feeding. So I would strongly discourage using that particular variety and consider a different variety. Also, you're showing 14 emerald green arborvitaes. Very nice shrub. They are not deer resistant. Amazingly enough, there are 2 existing emerald green arborvitae on the side of the building. Why they have not been attacked and stripped of their foliage, I have no idea. But I can assure you that if you are to plant 14 of these, in particular out front, 2 groups of 7, you would be find yourself very discouraged within a year or 2 after they are decimated by the deer. 2 other observations. There's a large brush pile at, I'll refer to as the southern end of the parking area up near the railroad property. That should be removed. I don't believe there's any indication of that, but just a minor issue, but it certainly is an aesthetic issue. And one final observation, it says that there's 3 existing trees. One of them, and they're all on that island just to the south of the existing building. You have a pine, a dogwood, and a birch tree. The birch tree is not in very good condition. The top is dead. It's a clump birch. Each one of the clumps is dead at the top. Also, it's interfering with the light that it's planted next to. So please give that some consideration. Thank you.
Sorry, what was that first arborvitae that you said was not deer resistant?
Danica, D-A-N-I-C-A, arborvitae, 24 proposed. They're smaller shrub form. And the other ones are 14 of the emerald green arborvitae.
Basically anything that says arborvitae.
Okay.
Unless you use green giant in place of the emerald green, that could work for you.
You pointed out 2 of the issues on the consultant's list of comments. Are there any others that you do not plan to comply with, or is everything else going to be a comply?
Everything else is
comply.
Correct.
Any other comments?
I'm trying to push this. I did have a quick comment, but I.
There you go.
Hold it down. Okay. All right. So, thank you very much. I wanted to talk to the issue of the Bucks County Planning Commission's request that you put in sidewalk and street furniture and those things. And on this property, this commission does not want to build a sidewalk to nowhere. And the problem we have is that you're at the very end of the village, and we would be building a sidewalk to nowhere and from nowhere. So we would just, we do appreciate the fact that if you would contribute to a fund so that when this section of the community is sidewalk is put in, that you would be contributing to that, that would be helpful. And, because I was saying, gee, if you just put sidewalks in front of the parking lot, that might suffice, because at least then you're not taking it to a dead corner, a dangerous corner. But at this point, it's probably too early to design sidewalks for the rest of the community, and we don't know what's going to happen in the rest of the community, and it could be years. So I think it's much better to solve this problem by just putting the money away, and hopefully we can get some grant money to match that. And also, the Bucks County Commission was also asking you to put in street trees, which I really appreciate the landscape design, which just puts in shrubs, if you put low shrubs in, because you've got power lines overhead. And I said, wow, well, this is a much better plan. So we do appreciate what you're doing there. I was just wondering about the fence. The fence on the plan looks like it's part on your property, part on the property in the back. Has that issue been resolved?
It hasn't been resolved, but we will comply once we get to the bottom of whether it's ours or Penn Central's. We think that based on the way it kind of runs, it's probably ours, and we'll address it. But either way, we'll comply with it one way or the other.
Okay, well, best of luck.
Thanks.
Are we going to conclude by the sidewalk discussion by saying the fee in lieu will be negotiated later? Is that what we're proposing?
The Board of Supervisors will consider that added.
Okay, okay. Does anybody have any other comments?
I just, with the comments from the Bucks County Planning Commission relative to the Holland Village Master Plan, it's onerous on a gentleman like Doctor here, who's taken a building that would stand the chance of sitting there for forever before anybody did anything with it, and expanding it with a little bit, what is it, 15 by 60, through where the drive-in used to be. And this board wants to work with anybody that wants to come in to the township, such as you, a sole proprietor, whose funds are limited, to not have to put in egregious points like sidewalks, signs, lighting, and make your business work for the township. So we appreciate you moving up from Feasterville into Holland, and we'll watch the traffic for you coming around the bend under the railroad there. And thank you so much. There's a lot in here, and I don't really like the recommending the township not grant the waiver request from providing sidewalks and street signs. I think that's really onerous and egregious for a sole proprietor trying to make a go of a building, like I said, could sit there for forever. So thank you very much.
Thank
I want to
you.
work with you.
Okay, if there's no further comments, I guess we can move ahead with a motion. I move that we recommend to the Board of Supervisors approval of Sabalaske Land Development SLD 20-3, subject to compliance with the Township Engineer's Review Letter dated July 28, 2021, and the Township's Planner Review Letter dated July 20th, 2021, and the Township Engineer's Review Letter dated July 28th, 2021. It is further moved that the requested waivers be granted, subject to the revisions that we've made this evening.
Mr. Chairman, I also recommend that we include the wording, additionally, a fee in lieu of sidewalks should be considered by the Board of Supervisors.
Okay, so noted and added to the motion. All in favor?
Aye.
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 All opposed? Motion passed.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next item on the agenda is the consideration of preliminary/final plan of land development, Ginko Lot 3, SLD 21-2, Railroad Drive. And could you introduce yourself, please?
Sure. Good evening. My name is Kristen Holmes with Holmes Engineering, the civil engineer on the project. With me is Brian Blair, property owner and applicant for the project.
Thank you.
Do you ask them to turn the mic on?
Your mics, can you turn them on? Should be a
now?
switch there. Yep, there you go.
So thank you. So the application tonight is for Blair Ginko Lot 3, which is part of the industrial park off of Railroad Drive, just off of Jacksonville. This is an amended final plan essentially because it was part of a previous approval several years ago for potentially or similar layout as far as same building area, phasing, and it's been updated today based on current ordinance requirements and based on some additional uses for the operation and the tenant that owns the property. So the plan that you see on the screen is an overall rendering of the full build scenario for the park, which is a multi-tenant industrial use building with various parking areas in the back for some storage and circulation for contractor vehicles and so forth. And like I said, it has been updated just to make it current to today's standards and ordinance requirements, which there were some changes to the ordinance since it had been approved. So as you would note in the waiver request letter, we did note previously approved waivers as part of the initial subdivision, which we had noted the original sections from the ordinance. And then we included some additional waiver requests based on today's standards for the ordinance from trying to maintain a similar layout to what had been approved before. We did receive all of the consultant review letters. Everything within those letters, other than the waivers that are being requested, would be a will comply item. The one additional waiver I would note was brought up within the Gilmore review letter in regards to street lighting. So that would be an additional waiver request beyond the letter that was previously submitted with our waiver requests to not provide street lighting within the Railroad Drive cul-de-sac extension. We could certainly go through waivers if there's any questions or anything, or if you have questions in general in regards to the overall layout or reviews.
Ms. Holmes, could you just explain some of the phasing information for the board?
Sure. So it is a two-phase project. In phase one, it is approximately 80,000 square feet of building area, which in the plan view that you see would be the top portion of the building. And that will really be for the Blair operations and headquarters for their use. So that portion and that surrounding parking and driveway area would all be built and constructed as part of phase one. Utilities with future conditions and extensions are all part of that first phase as well. The second phase would be the remainder of the building and the surrounding driveways and full circulation around the building for the full build scenario of that, and then the additional utility services for those additional building tenants.
Totaling how many square feet for phase two?
Approximately 128,657 square feet. Approximately, sorry. And that does match the square footage that was previously approved as part of the project. So the building layout remained the same. It's really just some of the area to the rear of the project that was updated with some additional impervious.
So your stormwater infrastructure, not that I'm a stormwater reviewer, just out of curiosity, is that all being built? Sorry. This new system. We've had a 16-month layoff, so it's hard to get back. So the stormwater infrastructure, is that all being built as one? So both basins will be done during phase one?
Yes, so
Okay.
all of the stormwater management would be installed as part of phase one. There are two underground stormwater facilities under the parking areas of that in phase one, and then a gravel area to the rear, which is what has been called out as future parking. And what I'll say in regards to that lot, because there were a few comments, the previous plans had always shown that as future. So that had been approved as those spaces being built later as a future time. But we are, at this point, planning to build them as part of the phase. So we will, on the next submission, not show them as future. We will include them as part of phase two to be constructed.
So do you have any idea between phases how long that'll take?
As far as timing?
Yeah, timing.
I don't. I mean,
We're talking years, months?
Years, yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
So then, the erosion and sediment control permitting and everything like that is also phased, or you plan on closing the permit out and reopening it?
So the NPDES permit, which is actually, it is currently under review, and we expect it to come any day as part of that. We do have a phase 1 and a phase 2 erosion and sediment plan.
Okay.
And just one phase for the post-construction, since all of the stormwater will be built in phase 1. We just have erosion for phase 2 to protect that.
Okay. Thank you.
Can you provide a description of what the different buildings do? You've got an overhang, you've got a drive-through, you've got this series of smaller individual, looks like on the phase 2. Can you just provide a little bit of what happens there?
Sure. So in the phase 1 building, which I mentioned would be the Blair building and their operations, there will be, it's denoted as sort of a gray hatched area on the rendering that you see. There will be a drive-through portion of the building. So as you access the site from the Railroad Drive cul-de-sac, the contractor vehicles will be able to drive into the building, be serviced, worked on, stored inside, loaded, unloaded for work, and then be able to exit the building as well. So there is a drive-through portion of that building. And then the overhang that you referenced, which is on the end of the building in phase 1, is really a sort of an overhang just for weather protectant for outdoor areas for additional vehicles to be under cover. The remainder of the building in phase 1 will be industrial related, warehouse, and some office space for the operations. And then the phase 2 building is, at this time, there's no particular tenants that are identified. So that was broken out based on similar square footages for each of the tenants for a similar industrial type use based on a permitted use for the facility.
So those would not be used by Blair necessarily. They could be other
Correct.
tenants.
Correct, yes.
Any questions?
Mr. Boyer, will you be vacating your Mearns Road Industrial Park location?
Sir, that's a different Blair.
Okay, that's
I'm
RP.
currently in the industrial park on Louise Drive.
Okay.
So 95 Louise Drive. I'm currently, a couple buildings away from that location.
Understood.
Yes.
And just jumping into the landscaping, I know that you were here for the previous presentation where I talked about the arborvitaes, and I see some of the same variety of arborvitaes. The emerald greens are proposed to a small extent, so
Yep, we'll adjust.
Understood.
substitute.
Unless you just want to feed a lot of deer.
Yeah.
Right.
No, we're good.
Any other comments?
Let me try again. So I have a question about the weir wall. I mean, there was some concern about that not having a deep enough foundation in heavy rains. And I said, geez, we're having incredible rains this summer. And so we've just been watching the erosion in our neighborhood. And so I'm going, have you guys worked through the logistics and all the problems with that wall, that retaining wall?
You're talking about the retaining wall along the rear?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so we're in the process of coordinating a full design for that retaining wall to be able to provide that for review to the consultants, which would be a structural design for the wall itself. And then, yes, we understand the concern with the area in front of the wall to the waters in there, and we'll accommodate that within the design to provide that for review.
Okay. And so the only other question I had was on this, the guardrail issue versus the stockade wall. How is that resolved?
Yes, so in regards to the retaining wall portion, the guide rail is really there because of the change in slope from the driveway down. So for the portions where we have the retaining wall, that wall will be built up about 18 inches above surface grade to help protect as a vehicular barrier in some areas. And then the guide rail versus the stockade fence, the guide rail really is there for more of a vehicular barrier and protection. And those were noted in certain areas whereas the stockade fence is provided more for a screening from surrounding areas. So we'd be looking to adjust as necessary. And I know in the comment where we have 2 of those, we would incorporate that into the wall design as well to make sure that any of those foundations are accounted for with that wall design.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments from the board?
Yeah, so just real quick, the tree replacement, so I just want to, I think you're saying that the ordinance doesn't apply because you're not going to be, what is the threshold, 20% removal of 6 inches or greater, so on and so forth. So you show these specimen trees and you show them to be removed with the assumption, I guess, that within the forested area that's being preserved, that there's a safe number, that you don't hit that threshold. Can you just indicate, like, how many are estimated in there, or something that just documents that you've complied with the tree replacement ordinance?
Okay, yes.
You could even take a sample, let's say maybe like 100 square feet, and just say, hey, on average, there's this many 6 inch or greater. Apply that to the whole area and something.
It's not a problem.
Yeah. That's it.
Okay, being no further comments, Pat, will you want to make
sure
the
can.
motion?
I move that we recommend to the Board of Supervisors approval of the Ginko Lot 3 land development, SLD 21-2, subject to compliance with the Township Engineer's Review Letter dated July 28th, 2021, the Township Planner's Review Letter dated July 20th, 2021, and the Township Traffic Engineer's Review Letter dated July 28th, 2021. It is further moved that the requested waivers be granted, including the additional waiver request from the street lighting on the Gilmore letter.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
On our agenda this evening, we have an updating of an ordinance pertaining to detached garages, barns, and similar structures. The board has had a chance to review this ordinance, and we're just going to move to approve it this evening. So I move to recommend to the Board of Supervisors approval of an ordinance amending the Northampton Township zoning ordinance, specifically Chapter 27, and the Subdivision and Land Development Ordinance, Chapter 22, for the purpose of amending sections related to detached garages, unenclosed porticos, sheds, residential recreational services, removal of topsoil, visibility at intersections, storage of junk vehicles, keeping of livestock, impervious service and stormwater management, administrative procedures, permits, amendments and penalties, signs, and lighting.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried. There's a number of public here this evening. We didn't have anybody listed on our agenda. Could I ask anyone who's willing to come forward?
My name is Charles Jack.
Please, speak into the mic, please.
Okay, I thought I spoke loud enough, but I guess not. Okay, my name is, can I pick it up?
Yes.
Oh, I should sit?
Well, you can.
You can sit,
Okay,
or
I'll
you can
sit.
just pick
It
it
doesn't
up.
matter.
It's just,
Yeah, my name is Charles Jack. I live at 74 Lakeview Drive, Holland, PA. And I really came to say to you guys, I saw you on Zoom a couple of times, I was really impressed with how much you're concerned with Holland, because I never hear Holland mentioned too much. We're like the stepchild of the other part of the county. And I really was taken, and so was my wife, with the care and the feel I got coming away from your Zoom meeting. I felt just the opposite when I was sitting before the supervisors. Mr. Solomon, I see him here, Mr. Pellegrino, they have not gone out of their way to save our community from the blight of Provco. The people that wanted to develop the Wawa on the Wright property, which is about a block and a half from my house. Other people, Hope Road, the people that are going down Holland Road, some of those residents, and I don't care what kind of buffer, what kind of accommodations they make, going from 16 pumps to 12 pumps, because that's what I think they have in mind. They're going to try to lull us into, we're going to make some accommodations. The accommodations they're going to make are still going to ruin our community, make drive-throughs through some of the roads near our community, because the traffic patterns there are a nightmare, and they'll only exacerbate them, I believe. I worked the polls. I'm looking at Pat right here. I had the opportunity. I'm of a different party, but at the polls, I worked, and I gave his materials out. We had a nice conversation, and I was so impressed with the way he spoke and the respect that he gave the people that he was talking to. I mean, I usually vote one way, but I usually do it through getting to know the viability of the candidates. You know, I read up. I just don't vote because I'm a Democrat, vote Democratic, or Republican, vote Republican. I vote because of the quality of the person. And I felt, after talking to you, and I was giving out information about the Wawa possibly coming into the area, 99% of the people were opposed. The people are going to rise up. You know, the buy right that happened in the R2 buy right that went on in Richboro, and that Wawa, that's a whole different area. The pumps would be 70 feet away from some of these people's houses. You know, they talked about lawsuits possibly coming up. The first little child that's killed crossing that road, because something's going to happen. I clean up car parts all the time on that intersection. I live on like I said, Lakeview. And it's a nightmare situation. Something's going to happen. Oh, they'll be paying lawyers, but it's going to be for the death of a child on a bike going across a busy road.
Sir, I'm sure there's going to be some back and forth on this project. Obviously, it's been presented to us, and we've voted it down.
I know.
And I appreciate your comments and your thanks, and I hope it works out for you.
Well, you know what? The respect you guys gave the whole idea was so heartwarming, really heartwarming. I look this way, and I don't see it. I think they're sold out somehow. I don't know how. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
Yeah, thank you.
Any other public comment? Please introduce yourself.
Okay, I'm just coming over to the microphone. My name is Pam Duffy. I live at 125 Hope Road in Holland. I'm also here to talk about the Wawa. Everybody that you see over there, pretty much, almost everybody is here to say thank you for everything, for voting it down. And, you know, we felt kind of lost, and you guys, you're true visionaries. I have the utmost respect for you. I speak for the people that are on our email list, which there are hundreds of people working on this. 2,667 people have signed a petition to date against this super gas station in Holland. You know, my neighbors on the corner, they're 70 feet from the pumps. I mean, their lives are going to be destroyed. You know all that. I'm not going to go through it. You know, the health with the toxic benzene fumes that are going to be spewing 24/7. It's just the Holland that I grew up knowing, that I didn't live here yet, but it was the promised land in the 70s when we came over, and that's why I wanted to live next to that village, because in my mind's eye, I still see that beauty. I remember the windmill flower shop, and that was where I wanted to go. And thankfully, it took me, I was almost 40 years old, but I made it here. But again, I wanted to thank you for that. Just one more thing I want to talk about. I know the Mill Race Inn is supposed to be developed. And I got, you know, somehow I got in the middle of this thing, and people call me all the time, tell me stuff, and, you know, I got a call last night about the Mill Race Inn. Now, I understand, I don't really know much about that, other than in the 70s, we used to go there for dinner after a prom or something. But I know the township owns it for 3 years, but it's been blighted for 21 years. That was the first year I moved into my house, and they had that flood. I was told last night that the builder, who was a small builder, I mean, he's not like a Toll Brothers, he's still a builder, but his name is Mike Costing, and he plans to build expensive upscale townhomes on the site of the mill race. And he found out, I don't know if he didn't know about it, whatever, but he's very upset about the Holland Wawa coming in on the Wright property, and he conveyed the message to this person that called me last night that he was considering pulling out because he's afraid he won't be able to sell those upscale townhomes because they're very expensive. And I mean, really, who's going to want to buy them, right down the street, not even worrying about the rest of the 95% residential area surrounding it, but these brand-new homes? He's worried about his cash flow. So I was asked to bring that up, so that's what I'm doing.
Ma'am, in all honesty, that hasn't been presented to us. We have no information on it at this
Right, I understand, and that's why the person asked me to bring that up in the comments, so.
We appreciate your coming and
Yeah, I just
your
wanted
time.
to let you know that, and I do appreciate you guys.
You're very welcome.
Standing up for us.
I hope it works out for you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Have a good evening.
If there's no further commentary, I will. Is there? Oh, okay, go ahead.
I'm Joe Barkheimer from 361 Buck Road, and again, I want to thank this board and appreciate it, and also like to mention about the environmental impact of the Wawa. I'm sure you guys have considered that, and it's really going to be devastating. We have that waterway that goes by the mill race that was mentioned, and put all these gas pumps down. We also have the gas pumps from the existing Shell station there. I'm sure they have to be removed and everything. So, again, I'd like to say, and then just all the support from our community is against this Wawa, and I really thank you guys. And I'm just also from the overall environmental perspective, plus not to mention the traffic and making our lives very difficult. So, just want to put that out there. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your comments, sir. If there, someone else, go ahead.
Yeah, I'll make it quick. Hi.
Just a couple minutes, if you would, please.
Sure, yeah, it'll be quick. So my name is Brett Duffy, 125 Hope Road, and I'm also here to thank you guys for your no vote on the Wawa in April. You did the right thing and you voted no on it, and that's admirable because from the looks of it, perhaps the supervisors will not follow your suit. You stood up to Provco when you didn't have to. I mean, Provco was, from what I heard from the Zoom call, actively berating you to vote a certain way, and you voted the right way. You voted against this project, and I think it took some courage to do that, and I thank you for that. And I remember my parents were listening to the Zoom call in my kitchen, and I'm pacing back and forth listening to this because I'm interested in the issue. I've spoken at 2 previous supervisor meetings, and I was nervous because I thought you guys might cave to the pressure, and thankfully you did not. And again, I want to thank you for that. And when one of the Provco lawyers said something to the effect that they were entitled to a yes vote on their project, one of the planners said, "Excuse me," and I mean it was so refreshing to hear that you weren't taking any crap from Provco, and you ended up voting the right way. Your no vote is not, as you've heard, is not going unnoticed by our community. The 2,600 people plus that have signed the petition are fully in support of the planners, and your no vote also reminded us that it is both imprudent and improper to build this 70 feet from houses. So the people that clap for me after I'm done talking, it's not for me, it's for you because you deserve it. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Can I say one thing, Mr. Chairman?
Go ahead.
You know, it's, and I think everybody on the board appreciates kind words whenever we get them, but we look at any project that comes to us through the prism of planners. We're planners. So, we were involved, some of us, in the Holland Village Master Plan, and of course, blending that into the Northampton Township Master Plan. And just in fairness to the other officials that have to take a look at this, we're not, again, I repeat, we're not legislators or litigators, we're planners. Everybody up here is a planner, and we're looking through that prism. And where other people may have to look at it through the prism of zoning, or God knows the prism of a lot of legal mumbo jumbo, which we're not privy to, nor do I understand a lot of it. But so it's looked at in a lot of different ways. But again, I repeat, we're nothing more than planners up here when we stand up and look at a project. So there is a big difference, but you know, that's.
Thank you. I also have to add that in no way was this board under any pressure to vote at any time for anything or to not vote for anything. We are a completely independent arm of the township. And as Mr. McGuigan just said, we are planners. We don't adjudicate or legislate anything. But we were not under any pressure. No one, to my knowledge, as the chairman of this board, contacted us or pressured us in any way to vote one way or another. It was solely our decision based on the information provided. So again, I hope it all works out for you as you would like, and thank you for coming this evening.
Thank you. Thank you.
There being no other business for this board this evening, I would like to entertain a motion to adjourn. The meeting of August 10th is now concluded.